Well, you're being, very close, yeah.
By the way, it's recording.
Okay, let's kick ass.
See, but that's good candid interaction too. So, where you're not, I didn't tell you I was filming, so it kind of lets you.
Hey man, what's up? This is Ayin Thropos right here. You're on Ayin.
If you can see inside your soul, those are love. If you can see inside your miracle, and if you can feel the words I'm sending you with love, if you can feel the heart-struck miracle.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Nancy. Nancy, do you realize how much close this motherfucker is? Jesus Christ, Nancy. Nancy, roll up your window. Nancy, roll up the window. Baby, it's putting a light on us.
I got my binoculars. I'm doing all this. Gunter, come here, Gunter. Oh man, all right. Yeah, looking all around with these binoculars, huh? Ooh, what's that? Oh yeah, we're doing an investigation. An investigation. That's it. All right. Already. Ayin Thropos here with another exciting episode of You Don't Know. You don't know, huh? So don't act like you do. On the air tonight, coming in on the telephone from an undisclosed location, probably in the United States, we've got Molecule Man. Molecule Man is involved in several secret programs, hence his hidden identity, which is not to be yet to be revealed at this time. And Molecule Man, are you with me?
Yes, I am. Here I am. How you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. Thank you for joining me tonight for another edition of You Don't Know.
I'm glad to be on here.
Kick ass, man. And anyway, we had said something about, if there's going to be any cussing or something. Well, my roommate's not here right now, and whenever they come in, I'll let you know, and you'll kind of know. We can cuss before that, but after that, we can't cuss. How does that? All right. Okay. So anyway, let's just let you do a free flow, and I'll keep the questions coming, as it pertains to your information. Just start wherever you like, Molecule Man.
All right. Well, everyone out there, you hear all kinds of information. Well, I'm going to try to show that I can give you probably the best, the most condensed information you'll get anywhere when it comes to just diversity all over the wall, everywhere. And so anyway, I'm not going to claim I'm a super soldier or I'm part of any open programs, but there's a lot of silent programs I'm a part of, very passive programs. First of all, I want to claim that I'm a vampire. And I'm not going to give you this accent like I'm from Romania or anything fake. This is all real. And you've heard of Psy vampirism. Well, yeah, we got that down. Basically, it's an evolving factor. Like, for instance, becoming a vampire, there was a defector from the Illuminati who decided to make his own vampires. He took vampire technology, and I'm going to refer to it as technology, that's centuries old. And actually, vampirism is one of the oldest super soldier programs. So when I say I'm not a super soldier, I'm just not a super soldier of the 20th and 21st century. I'm a byproduct of something from the future and the past, because much of my technology of vampirism comes from the future that has actually been outlawed. Maybe somewhere around 25th century, 23rd. I don't have information exactly when it becomes outlawed. But the reason why is because it's a combination of ancient and future technology where a black hole torsion field is put into the center of the person. And my soul gets ripped out and upgraded to a black hole. Don't think of it as a gravitational black hole, but it works like one. And it pulls in all kinds of things like money, suffering, sex, feelings, events, desire for promotion, having kids. All these things actually drain you dry. Well, the vampire drains you dry up at. And one reason why I became a vampire is because you were going to sell your energy anyway. All of humanity sells their energy to the archons, aliens, things like that. You know what? If you're going to be a sellout, might as well go ahead and sell it to me, because I want to use this to climb the chain, the food chain, and we're all part of the food chain. We're all being loosed for what we're worth. So what I'm going to do is I use that energy to re-harness back into my life force, so you can use it to get rich, open up events. It uses quantum energy, and it's torsion fields that bring in energy inward, like collapsing torsion fields. That's the harnessment of the power. And in fact, we are a type that when the Earth becomes more radioactive on the surface, we're designed to be the mankind that survives. So it is a super soldier survival that we feed off of radiation. So now that's the first step. There's different kinds of tribes and different kinds of vampire theories, and I've investigated it. Well, there's one guy from India, he blesses objects, and he's been a vampire for perhaps, what I'm hearing, thousands of years old. And haven't got the exact number how far back it goes, but he's been here for aeons, I've been told. And he knows how to impregnate the Kali Ma energy into objects, where now I'm going to become a genetic vampire. I just need 3 more full moons and I'm there. And so it's a whole new level of it. So I'm incorporating different kinds of theories together where I'm a multiple hybrid vampire. Because every vampire has a weakness when it's attacked by magic or psychic or psionic. There are some weaknesses, I think, to everybody. Well, if I become a multiple hybrid, I decrease my weaknesses. Because, see, my original vampire is a right spin, where the torsion field spins right. That's a spin of holiness. And churches that face, when you enter them, when they face east, the Orthodox churches were very aware of east. That was a holy direction. That's when you look at Muslims and the facing of Mecca and everything. There's awareness about the energy of the east, energy flowing from the east, and you absorb it. So that's the reason why Muslims bow down carpets 5 times a day. Not all of them, but the more practicing ones. They're trying to absorb this eastern energy. It actually, the whole jihad thing is all about accumulating energy. Now, your average Muslim doesn't realize this, but your Sufi, your mystical Muslims do. It accumulates the sun energy rising in the east. When I sleep, I always face my head east to gain the most energy. So you are going to learn some things, some very practical knowledge. There's a science behind it, but remember, science is a tool. Don't get lost between science, meaning being conscious. That's what it works. It means conscience. It's the language of your conscience. And then there's scientism, when it actually becomes a danger and a cult, which is mainstream science.
Of course.
And so that's why one must use it as a tool and don't turn it into your religion. And as we know, the word religion means to re-yoke or reconnect. But here's how I look at it. And forgive me, I'm going to bounce all over everywhere on different subjects, because I think all these subjects relate to each other.
Shoot.
And in order to understand one, you got to explain 3 other subjects just to come back to that one. So science is the language of the conscience. Religion is the language of the unconscious. So remember, when you see religious images, if you take them literally, you're applying the wrong tool. You must apply the language of the unconscious, which means that you will have a whole new set of eyes reading holy scriptures, holy texts, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, and so forth from the Bible, the Tanakh, Torah. You got to turn on your unconscious. Well, that's where the power of vampirism comes in, is when you awaken your unconscious and envelop your conscious world. And that's why I have a black hole vortex, where it's more like dark matter, or what quantum science calls dark matter, dark energy. Well, it's really dark energy. It's like a Luciferian vortex. Now, Lucifer has different definitions depending on what secret society you go. He's like a multi-dimensional phenomena, and I don't think there's any gospel about what Lucifer is or is not. In my alchemical studies, and when I was initiating the alchemy, my alchemical teacher said, I asked, what is Lucifer? And he said, it is your mind. And I said, well, why is it fallen? It's your mind that's fallen from knowledge. And so, is it right, is it wrong? Well, hey, just take it for the enlightenment it's worth. Every white male is Lucifer, okay? When you develop your vampirism, that's Lucifer more incarnate. That Lucifer is a collective unconscious of white males. Every race, whether female or male, has a divine language behind it. I don't care if you're black, female, Hindu, whatever. You're going to have a mythos that backs it up. But I can just speak more highly from the white male, as Lucifer is the white male unconscious that's trying to climb back into the heavens. And that's what I'm aiming to do. So one can ask, okay, well, are you Lucifer? Yeah, but so are you.
Okay, now, are you, now you're part Turkish, and so are you a white man?
Well, I'm a white man. In fact, I think I have more Caucasian in me than the average white man, because I don't have I'm only 164th American Indian.
Oh, you're part American Indian too.
Yeah. So yeah, I descend from a line of male Turks, and then a line from female Caucasians, and that's, by that definition, is what a Nephilim is.
That's the definition of a Nephilim?
Shuffled around for years.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so the hybrid of those two actually create the Nephilim line. It's the only line that can actually challenge Yaldabaoth, or the Yahweh, or the Demiurge, or it's going by many names. It's the only one that can challenge this power.
Okay, well that's interesting that you'd bring up Yaldabaoth. So you know what that is, I guess.
Right, it's the Gnostic nickname. Different Gnostic schools have, that's what they commonly call the creator of this world.
Well, yeah, the creator is something. I'll leave it at that. I'm not
we can. That's a whole new subject itself about what that is. We can say the creator of the Matrix, which is an overlay of
I think that would be more accurate
upon the original reality that was laid upon.
Right, and I'm as I'm sure you know, many of these Western Hermetic societies, for instance, one of the secret societies that I'm in, it honors Yaldabaoth. And, of course, most Christians do not realize that, Yaldabaoth and the Yahweh are, in fact, one and the same.
Yeah, see, we got to be really fluidic about it, because I don't stick to just orthodox. I mean, I think we just should put all the ideas on the table, and the listener, they just take for what it's worth according to their studies. But, let's define this demiurge creator. What is it? Well, it depends on what school. Now, it depends on what layer you approach it. Is it a lizard? Well, I've got good, strong evidence that there is a lizard that's actually number one and calls itself Satan. I don't think it's originally named that. I just think the lizard just adapted that because that's the title that became addictive and popular. I don't think it was its original name, thousands of years earlier. It changes its name compared to what's popular in language.
Sure.
To engulf. Now, that may or may not mean that is the ultimate identity of Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is also to be like another form of your own unconscious while it creates. It's your subconscious. Excuse me, let me rephrase. It could be your subconscious.
Well, we know that the archons, quote unquote, that they not only live out in outer space, but they live in our minds as well. So that would back that up. Now, as far as being the creative aspect, I'm not so sure about that because the creative aspect seems to be what these archontic beings lack. Or else what? Or else what do they need us for? You know what I mean?
Right now, there's the Carlos Castaneda. What that was all about is exploring. They're called the let's see. I want to say the mud leapers.
The mud flyers.
Yeah. Okay, that's another term. Well, they're supposed
that's
to be
the one Carlos Castaneda uses. The mud flyers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now
he also calls them the mud shadows sometimes.
Yeah, there we go. That's another term. Right.
And Don Miguel Ruiz, who is from a Toltec shamanism lineage, he plays it off more or less like it's something psychological, but he calls them the predator in the Four Agreements, which is, of course, a very popular book.
Wow, well, that's fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
well, it said that when you feel more like crap, they come closer. When you start feeling happier, they leap away. But just because you start feeling happier doesn't mean that there's not a monopoly on your consciousness. Because I think, well, when it comes to the vampires, like, technically, I have become an archon. Maybe that means I'm a piece of crap for doing that, but I think the archons are far more than what we realize. Like, it depends what species you are. Are you talking about something that's not human versus human? Well, the human beings, there are humans that can actually become archons. And I think different archons, there's different kinds of archons.
Sure.
But
sure. Yeah,
I
you bet.
the seat of one of the archons.
You did what with one of the archons?
I filling the seat, like,
Oh,
like
yeah. I just,
seat.
well, my only question would be about that. And of course, you're right. It has to do with which narrative you're going with. But say, for instance, with the Sophianic narrative, becoming an archon would be going backwards. But if the archons were created to be the original humanity, but it was a failed type of experiment.
Well, let me tell you how I view it. Okay.
Okay.
It's okay now. We as humans would like to favor ourselves in the best position. And anything below us, well, that's natural. We're the natural predators. Anything above us, well, we probably want to demonize it if it gets in our way, which is totally natural. But the way I look at it is I look at it as I'm the farmer and humanity is like cattle, which is the reason why the Ashkenazi, Khazarian Jews in the Kabbalah and in the text, they refer to, everyone else besides those cattle. But what they did is they're one to think that they're Yahweh's favor. Well, anyway, back to the subject of an archon. An archon is an authoritative position, and a vampire can fill that position. And there's different entities that can fill that position because the Matrix has like 72 major positions and many more minor positions. These are pockets of power that you can control.
That's reminiscent of the 72 Shemhamperish of King Solomon. The goetic quote unquote demons. There's 72 of them, so it's definitely speaking the same language there.
Yeah, and you hear the 72 names of God. What this is it's pretty much like 72 positions of the Matrix.
You bet.
And when you get onto one of those positions, you have one of the 72 things of what goes on in the Matrix.
Yeah.
So the combined will of those 72 pretty much run the show. And the reason why, the thing is, one can rally against the machine all you want, but you're not going to get anywhere. You're still going to grow old and die and reincarnate and still be stuck here. Because nobody escapes. I don't care if you die or not, you don't escape, but I think the only way you can leave the Matrix is you have to walk through it alive. I don't think anything dead can leave it.
Well, that's fascinating that you bring that up because we hear so much about space travel these days and alleged nuts and bolts space travel, and I don't want to get into the moon landing or anything like that. But when the ancient Egyptians speak about space travel, but what's the one thing that they always have to do before they go out into space? They have to die. That's right. And so what you know, they think that they're going to get there, or not get there by dying, but get there only after they die or whatever. Go up in this light ship or this whatever it is. So that's a fascinating idea.
Well, there's a movie called, Dark City. If you notice, the guy, in order to beat him, you have to join him. You have to become like them so you can walk through them. That's my goal. My goal is not to stop at an Archon, but I want to become an Aeon, which I'm on my way to developing. It's about developing your spaceship in your 55-foot aura. You have a spaceship model, but you have to fill it with plasma energy and all kinds of mechanical energy to start spinning.
Yeah,
so you can develop your engines and take off.
You bet.
And that's how you become part of your super soul, your oversoul, is you have to merge. And on a clear night in the city, when you leave the city and you go out in the country, some people you can see your own soul. It'll be a light that follows you that you can see in outer space. A lot of intuitive people who are highly intuitive, it's been nicknamed like a 10th dimensional substance called your soul. Well, it cannot ground to you until you develop your soul here. And when you develop your soul here, this thing will either land on you or you're going to beam up to it. But that's how you get back to your 10th dimensional soul. It's waiting for your development. That soul is like stranded out there and you're stranded here, but to connect it, it's like you have to build up your light body. And that's one of my goals. See, as a vampire, if you look at Egyptian texts, the Jedi initiate was developing different subtle bodies. There's the blood body, the mind body, the flesh body. They got different names. The name body, even the sacred name had a body.
Yeah, the etheric body, the astral body.
That's what vampires develop. Vampires just developing an extra few bodies that human beings are not. I think human beings are deficient in developing their multiple dimensional bodies.
Yes, I agree, 100%. Now, and it's interesting, and I don't know if it's using the same terminology, but referring back once again to the Sophionic narrative, the Aeons or the Aeonic gods or Pleromic gods, there's a couple that they name, and one of them is, of course, Sophia, not to be confused with this, artificial intelligence that's everyone's real crazy about right now, that's Sophia or whatever, but it's Sophia, the supposed Earth Mother Goddess, and then her male counterpart, Telestai. These are Aeonic or Pleromic gods, and so your goal is to become one of these?
Well, my goal is not necessarily locked into one school of thought, and it's interesting that, you provide a school of thought. The way I'm looking at it is an Archon is one who's authoritative over the Matrix, and I've actually navigated the Matrix, and now this doesn't have to necessarily vibrate with what you believe, but just take it for what I'm explaining.
Sure.
Okay? And what I've done is me and a friend of mine, we've actually mapped out the Matrix. We've actually jumped parallel timelines. We've even identified the rulers of each timeline. We have 13 timelines in the Matrix. And each timeline has sub-timelines and variations of those lines. All right, but when we left the 13th timeline, now we're in, so when you're in the Matrix, it's called the space-time continuum. It's got 3 spaces in one time, but it's broken. What are the other 2 times to match the 3 spaces? But when you leave the Matrix, now you have you go backwards. Now you get 2 more extra time dimensions on there, and that's and how you get those 2 extra time dimensions, you have to fix them within yourself. And when you do, you can actually mentally and physically travel through time and teleport through space because you are more genetically complete. What I understand is lizards can already do that. Now, if they're so inferior, how come they can do it and we can't?
Say that again. If they're so what?
Go ahead.
Say that again. If they're so what? How come they?
If they're inferior to us, and we're supposedly have better extension, how come they can do it with ease, slip through time and slip through space, and yet we're still trying to figure it out and hoping one day we'll do it? So there's something wrong that we were way behind, even though we like to think that we're spiritually inclined. There's a thing where you have the concept of your potential, And then there's the thing of just fulfilling your potential. And maybe that's the difference between those who ascend and those who don't. But in my opinion, I found that ascension is not the lovey-dovey head to the light thing like we're supposed to.
Yeah, well, in the
I
Bible,
interpret it's more about climbing the food chain.
right, and of course that's a very Masonic idea, but there is a lot of truth to that. And not that there's anything wrong with Masonry. Yeah, but the idea of the Greek word, the epinoia, which is the creative aspect that the human being has, we're told that the archon does not possess this creative ability. And in fact, in the Bible, it says that, and I'm not a Christian, by the way, but in the Bible it says that the angels, that the mankind is somehow going to, in the long run, be greater than the angels somehow. And so we get the idea that these angels, they may be different, very all-powerful in their certain realms, like the angel of music is the most powerful music, the angel of, whatever, yoga is the most powerful of this, but they don't seem to have very much imagination.
And can I throw out a paradigm here? You're going to like this one. Now, whether you believe it or not is one thing, but it's a very simple and yet very challenging concept.
Okay.
All right, so it may just take me like 3 minutes to explain.
All right.
Okay, now, maybe 5. All right, so now let me go ahead and tell you, from my experience, not anyone else's, but from my experience according to my studies and my own growth, an angel is actually a shaman or shaman, okay?
Okay.
It is a man or a woman who develops connections with birds. Now, I'm not talking about just simple bird watching, but yet that's how it begins. Ancient shamans would actually tear off the vulture wings of vultures and wear them. This is where we get the myth of various gods and beings that look like they wore feathers, but they really weren't natural growth. They're artificial costumes. Well, these ancient shamans believed that by merging with the birds, they became the birdmen, the shamans, and they became our origin of angels. And they were the inspiration of a lot of divine beings, especially if you look at the Sumerian and Babylonian pictures, lots of the gods wore wings. Now, a lot of people say, oh, those guys are from outer space, this and that. It's like, if they were from outer space, it would look pretty much more obvious as more outer space, but it is very, for an educated view, it looks very shamanistic, okay? Now let's go for another thing. Look at the werewolf. The werewolf in American Indian culture and various cultures, Transylvanian cultures, several cultures have the werewolf incremented into the mythos. It's very real. We just think because we see in Hollywood, well, it's got to be fiction. Well, before Hollywood, these things existed. It's pretty much shamanism that merges with the wolf and becomes one with it.
That's absolutely right. I agree with you 100% on that.
Okay. Now, so go with me on this. So now let's go for the serpent race. Okay, this is where it gets controversial. We've heard of the reptilians, right?
Yes.
The mythos behind it, they come from this, they come from the serpent stars, and you got the constellations. Well, in a certain matrix way, yes, there is a mythos and a history and a heritage that may be intergalactic, interdimensional. But I'm going to stay right here, and this is the only time you ever hear this. I think the reptilians started right here in our own backyard.
I agree.
When men started messing with snakes and serpents, reptiles, and merging with the consciousness, and when you merge one with the consciousness, it created a whole matrix, a whole history that goes back millions of years in the future. It creates a reality. When you merge with the reality of the animal, and the animal merges with you, you create a new synthetic timeline. It becomes more real as it becomes more ingrained in the matrix. See, that's what people don't understand. The matrix history can be rewritten in your timeline.
Yes.
People don't realize how fictional they are and how fictional the timeline is and how artificial and how conscious. It's like a make and a remake of conscious people. Shamans can rewrite reality when they climb real high up, especially when they go to the dark room. And that's a place of hyperspace, okay? That's when we get the short little hyperspace travels,
right?
Okay?
Right.
So you see the concept, the birdmen, there's lion men in Africa, there's elephant men in Africa. There's different tribes in Africa that literally shapeshift. I'm not joking with this. If anyone in the audience ever hears about this, go become friends with African. Now, don't just sit there and ask them first 10 minutes what they know. They're not going to feel comfortable talking about this until they know you. I was roommates with some Africans, and then they blew the story on me. That's when you start to hear the highest grade of magic that you ever seen. It comes out of Africa, and these people turn into animals. There's the alligator people. And man, I could tell you a whole show of what the adventures in Africa be. It puts Indiana Jones shows to shame. But there's elephant men, for example, that actually, what they do is they go into the jungle, and like right when they start to become men, the elephant men tribe will actually initiate and go hunt for the spirit of the elephant in the jungle. Where witches and different animals reside in the spirit world. And if the elephant spirit approves you, then you will absorb it and go back and finish the ritual back at your tribe. But you can't eat or drink anything for like 2 weeks. Magic keeps you alive. This is an actual real initiation. So the spirit of the elephant wants to experience the human nature. Human nature wants to experience the power of the elephant. Therefore, it's the elephant man. Okay, so that goes along with the realm of vampires. Now, some vampire groups are probably possessed by reptilians. There's also the insects, which may actually be a competitor of the reptilians. That may be involved in Yaldabaoth.
Are you talking about like
Yaldabaoth may have insect interaction?
Are you talking about like the insectoids? Like
yes.
Okay, like
yes.
the praying mantis type creatures?
Right, the praying mantis. Every human being's got, I've heard, 3 praying mantises chewing on their 8th chakra.
Well, let me tell you, that's fascinating that you say that, because I had an interview with the psychic Christopher S. Jacobs a few weeks ago, and he told me that I had been visited by insectoids recently. I mean, I didn't know what to make of that. But you're saying that every man, woman, and child has 3 insectoids with them at all times?
An average, yeah. And now if you smoke or do DMT, dimethyltryptamine, people have actually seen some of these on the refrigerators, cabinets in their house. And so they'll just be casually just, gnawing away or whatever, just sitting. They're natural predators. Now let me give you an insight on a possibility of what they were. You hear the mythos of an extraterrestrial, right?
Yes.
Well, then now there's the idea of interacting with the insects on the shamanistic level. Now this may have actually opened up a portal between parallel dimensions, that we have one where what if humanity came to dominate the world? Then there's another one, what if reptiles came to dominate the world? We as mammals, reptiles. Then what if the insects came to rule the world? Well, what if the parallel dimensions actually interact with each other? We have to look at that fluidic kind of concept that could they have reached over with their biophysical body, their astral body, and overlay it on us, and that's how they feed on us. They can see our dimension, and they see it as a natural energy food tool. And they may have actually made up some breeds of high-ranking vampires, where a vampire is a human host that takes in greys, and the gray works for the reptilian works for the praying mantis. There may be a hierarchy.
A hierarchy.
That's one breed of vampire that it's not my breed, because my breed actually chews them up and grinds them up. My fifth dimensional vortex actually eats ghosts and poltergeists, reptilians. Reptilians will start to get sick around me entities have to stay clear of my vampire vortex. It's designed to chew them all up.
Huh.
So
fascinating.